Well, it's a bit of a dreary day outside. Got one midterm coming up today. A few other classes to go do. But, just so y'all know, everyone, hello, it's Weekend Railroader once again. And I thought I'd show you what a model railroader's dorm looks like. Here we have your pretty standard dorm room. This is at Washington State University, by the way. Stuff up on the wall, your computer. But, well, maybe it's not your standard dorm room. This is a model railroader's dorm room. I'm a bit of a rail historian too, so there's some railroad artifacts around the room as well. Allow me to give you a tour. This is my HO scale railroad. Here we have a Bachmann Union Pacific locomotive with a vast Harriman behind it. It's supposed to be a model of Oregon Western Railway and Navigation Company number 1590, which I've actually worked on at a museum, volunteered on. And this is one of my more detailed layouts. Not super detailed, but we've got the depot, an old hallmark decoration with people around it. We've got our turntable at one end of the yard. We've got our trolley barn at the other. Somewhat similar to Issaquah, Washington, actually. Only Issaquah doesn't have a turntable. But it has a trolley barn. Basic 3-track yard. The scenery is a little different than most model railroads. The grass here, if you can see, is actually microfiber washcloth from Dollar Tree that has been spray painted with Krylon Emerald Green spray paint. And the ballast, it's not quite the right color at the moment. Well, ballast, if you're in college, is really expensive. It's expensive anyhow. That comes from here. Nothing in there right now, but that's your coffee maker. You get leftover coffee grounds, which you've been allowed to dry out in a Gladware. And you get used coffee ground ballast, which, if you don't mind the smell of coffee, works quite well. Has the right texture, and I imagine with some paint it could be made to be the correct color. Although it does strike me that if you wanted to do what the Germans call a Feldbahn, or a field railway, or a logging railroad, dirt would be quite appropriate for ballast. You also might be a college dorm model railroader if half of your closet is clothes and the other half is model train parts and supplies, like our Labelle oil, our isopropyl alcohol for cleaning the tracks, and all sorts of bins full of parts. I don't really have much new model railroad stock. I have a lot of the old stuff. I actually collect, to some degree, actually I'll show you one of them right over here. This is a cardstock reefer. Probably dates from sometime between the 30s and the 50s. Brass wheels, metal trucks, and the car sides are cardstock. That's how they used to make them. There are also wood kits, such as this caboose right down here. A lot of stuff was kit built, and I actually like collecting that stuff. I usually find it in the used junk bins at train shows, and I fix it up. Here comes our train again. This Union Pacific locomotive by Bachmann is actually my newest and most detailed engine I've ever had. Most of my stuff is like Atherton Blue Box diesels. You may be wondering how this layout's constructed. It's actually quite simple. Here's the bed, and the layout's right underneath it. This is the brace beam right here for the bed. Usually you'd use this only if you were lofting your bed, to basically a double-decker. Here what I've done is it's actually not connected to the bed, it's just sitting here. And the layout, the yard at least, is built on particle board. 2 sections. In fact, you can kind of see the edge of one right here. The particle board is set up on top of milk crates underneath this. Milk crates are great because they're strong, they stack easily in the car, and when you have to pack all this up and go home, as I will be doing in May, it's perfect for carrying everything home. An all-in-one system. The rest of this, and this may be hard to believe, is cardboard, layers and layers of cardboard with hot glue, Bachmann Easy Track, and scenery on top. I have a section over here which does not have scenery. And this, might be a little dark, is what it looks like underneath. There's the edge of the scenery. The rest of it is simply cardboard, layered, shimmed, and glued down to allow the train to pass over. The fascia for the layout, as you might have guessed, is lots of cardboard as well. In this case, pizza boxes happen to be the perfect size, and they were also all the same size. So we didn't have to go cutting cardboard a whole ton to match up sizes. It was pretty close already. Now you may see I have some of this cheapo Bachmann G gauge track. And yes, I will admit I like a little bit of G gauge, but not the typical G gauge. Here's some of my kit bashed equipment. I know the lighting's a little weird, but let me show you. This stuff doesn't run super well, but it is fun. This started out as two Scientific Toys Easy Tech battery-powered locomotives. It has since been modified into one. I originally intended it to be, well, a logging mallee, but I think it's more of a one of those South American or Cuban sugarcane mallees now, judging by the wood load in the tender. But it is simply kit bashed from the parts of two battery-powered locomotives with track pickups added onto the tender. Operates off of an HO transformer, and at least on the straightaways runs quite well. The boiler does swing out on curves, so kind of hard to see, but there's one we're on a straightaway right now. We also have a couple cabooses I've been working on. The Rio Grande caboose was an early attempt. Probably still needs to be lowered onto new bright trucks. That's an Easy Tech caboose. This started out as an Echo Toys caboose. Had new bright trucks added, a weathering job, and there you have it. A logging caboose. I've also got another logging caboose underway. This one's inspired off of the old Rayonier cabooses. It's not quite finished, but we started with a new bright body, moved the cupola to one end as per Rayonier looks, and started adding an interior. Open the door, which involves some hacksawing, and we've got our cupola cabinets with seats on top. We've got our bench. We've actually got that little round thing supposed to be a potbelly stove with a smoothie straw for the chimney, which lines up pretty well with the smoke jack on the top of the roof. And the base of this all is actually from a new bright boxcar, so it has the longer base with the offset caboose body. So it doesn't run super well, but I am thinking of making a display of these at a local museum for an interactive logging railroad display. I've also been working on some camp cars, skid shacks, and that sort of thing to represent a logging camp. So for G-Gauge on the cheap, it is pretty fun. I'd recommend giving it a try, and hey, you know, it's good weathering practice to start on the cheap stuff first. Plus it's a lot easier on the bigger equipment than the HO scale, I will admit. So a few other things in the Model Railroaders dorm. Some remains from my Marks layout I had last semester, which are set up here on display. Local antique finds, that's a Union Pacific Railroad ticket receipt from a local line. I have my well, not really in scale, it's more engage. This is Blockman stuff. A little diorama. It's actually meant to represent a Garden Railroad in O gauge. Or not Garden Railroad, Life Steam 7.5 inch gauge railroad. And of course we've got the messy toolbox that needs to be organized. We've got the messy pile of trains that need to be worked on. Most of these old cheap ones that I just enjoy fixing up, repainting, getting going again. Got a couple of things like your lanterns. I collect lanterns, all types. There's a railroad lantern on the left. Electrified general purpose Dietz air pilot on the right. And another Lionel G gauge. And actually an MPC plastic kit model, still uncompleted, of the General, which I've been working on for a while. So, of course, we've got the obligatory poster, probably different than most college posters if you think about it. Your railroad bedding. So yeah, there you go. Pretty dreary day, but it's not so bad. And you've got a railroad in your dorm. That's about it. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.